No worries at all, boys. How you all doing?
I'm doing pretty good, I'm surprised you even have your voice. It sounded like you lost your voice there a little bit last night.
Yeah, what a main event, huh? What a main event. You don't often see those, just where it takes you out of the moment, and just for those few minutes, your suspension of disbelief goes into haywire, and nearly brought a tear to my eye at the end of the match.
Yeah, Elgin had a hell of a performance, and this week, Showdown in the Sun were off the charts in terms of wrestling action, including Kevin Steen and El Generico on night 1, as well as the triple threat match on night 2. And we saw a potential match of the year candidate last night. We briefly got into that between Elgin and Davey Richards, in which, like I said, you even lost your voice. So do you think Elgin solidified himself as a top-level star in Ring of Honor? Or what do you think?
He's far from solidified his spot, but he's certainly shown that he can perform on that level. And that's the first step, I remember one of the first matches I had with Tyler Black in Philadelphia, and it was very similar. I said to some guys earlier on today how a lot of the times the crowd is so important, and you just don't know before you go out there whether this is going to be a classic or not. And Tyler stepped up on that night and eventually became a champion there. So, everything else lies in the future. But he certainly, as I said, showed that he can perform on that level.
Was this weekend, the two pay-per-views, was this your favorite time so far as a commentator of Ring of Honor, or?
Yeah, I think the moment at the end of Davey Richards' match was one of the moments for me that really sort of choked me up to where, I don't know, here recently with me retiring and everything, I've sort of tried to find some kind of resolution, try to understand exactly what professional wrestling is and why I've spent my life pursuing it, and I guess I got an insight to it in that match.
Yeah, that match was definitely a lot of people are saying that CM Punk and Chris Jericho tonight could be a match of the year, but I think they really have stiff competition with Elgin and Richards last night. Yeah,
it's obviously a very different venue, and a different thing to have the WWE vehicle behind it. But I wouldn't doubt for 1 second, guys of the talent of Punk and Jericho. Two of the top guys in the business, certainly of my generation, could certainly go out there and steal the show.
Now, were you a wrestling fan growing up, or did you become a fan in your teenage years? And if so, who are the wrestlers you would sit by the TV watching week by week?
Well, I first saw British wrestling when I was a kid. I remember guys like Fit Finlay, Skull Murphy, Kendo Nagasaki. When that came off of TV, it was a few more years before I got into WWF at the time, after one of my friends got a tape of SummerSlam 90. And then I was a big fan of, the usual suspects, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Ultimate Warrior, and even the Immortal, Hulk Hogan.
Now, just about everybody was a Hulk Hogan fan, except I said just about everybody was a Hulk Hogan fan back in the day.
Right.
Now, going back to your early days in Ring of Honor, you had great matches with the likes of Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, Austin Aries, Kenta, and more. And the latter, what was it like to finally, after 9 years of training, to become the World Heavyweight Champion?
It was huge. It was a tremendous feeling for me. The actual moment that I won the belt, I was kind of sort of semi-knocked out, so it was kind of difficult to really enjoy the moment at the time. It was such a difficult road physically to get the belt that it took me a few weeks to kind of, relax and really understand what I'd achieved. And obviously that's when I tore my bicep for the first time, so I didn't get a lot of time to kind of, revel in it. But just the fact that I was following guys like Joe and Dragon and Punk and Aries and all these sort of guys that, I'd admired for so long, to know that I was following those guys meant as much as being a Ring of Honor champion in and of itself,
Yeah. Ring of Honor is planning on releasing a compilation DVD on your best matches, similar to what they did in the past few months on both Bryan Danielson and CM Punk. What matches can we expect to see on your DVD compilation?
They did give me the list, but off the top of my head, I don't remember all of them. I tried to suggest that obviously the more important matches, the match with Dragon in England, I believe should be on there. The match with Aries from New York should be on there. Maybe the Soccer Riot match, I'm not sure. I think the difficulty is they did release a best of, a limited best of DVD for me that sort of went out free with one of the earlier DVDs. So I didn't want to repeat that, but I said to them, you've got to do this, almost fresh, like you haven't done one before. And but I think the thing that will really make it valuable, I hope at least in fans' eyes, is that we do a sit-down interview where I talk openly about a lot of things about my career, and which I hope would be quite insightful and interesting to fans of the product.
Yeah. With WrestleMania 28 tonight, and you had mentioned Punk earlier, with himself and Bryan Danielson defending their WWE and World Championships respectively, do you believe that this is an indication to the current roster of Ring of Honor talent that they could accomplish the same as Bryan Danielson and Punk in the future? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that those guys have got to that stage is an inspiration to everyone that's following in the same path. Whether it was Ring of Honor or Dragon Gate or any of the independent promotions that are out there. I mean, that is always going to be the case. It's very difficult for me to. I was in Miami Beach this morning, and I'm leaving Miami as quickly as I possibly can. Because it's very difficult for me to have come along the same sort of roads as those guys, but. Like I said to Dragon when he won the belt the first time, I said, I'm not really sure I'll ever come to terms with not getting to that stage after, paying my dues, but the fact that he did in some way makes it okay.
Mm-hmm. Now, sticking with the Ring of Honor roster, our own Wayne Daly, the lead reporter, Wrestling-News.net, stated that at age 29, Kevin Steen is the hottest thing on the independents in his opinion, and his future is ahead of him. However, on a personal level, what guys could you see echo yourself? Austin Aries, CM Punk, and Bryan Danielson in becoming the company's next big stars, and who's the one guy that could bring you out of retirement for a match?
Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon?
The only guy who could bring me out of retirement is Vince Kennedy McMahon. So if that doesn't happen, then no one. I kind of look at it like, I pretty much feel as I've done everything I can do outside of WWE. I'm very happy in my role as color commentator there in Ring of Honor. I'm happy that there's a lot of ambition there, and I'm happy that I can still be part of that product and come out and hang out with my friends and see some of the best wrestling in the world and still be genuinely moved by it. Like I was last night. But then, I don't think I can pick out one guy who I can say is going to be the next big star or anything else like that. I know there's a lot of talented guys there. I think, Tommaso Ciampa is certainly, with a couple of little, very subtle changes can be that guy, can move up. I always say to people when I started out and I was doing just my British, technical style when I started out there, I don't think anyone would have ever thought that I'd eventually be the Ring of Honor World Champion, me included. So those sort of little changes, and genuinely speaking, it's the guys that, are students of the game, that understand that you have to evolve, you have to constantly get better. They're the ones to watch out with, and a lot of times you don't have too much, there are so many people, there's arguably almost nobody in sport today, or at any time actually, other than The Rock perhaps, that at one point people in the know said this guy will never make it and this guy will never draw, So I don't think anybody can really say that, but I'm happy. As Michael Elgin showed last night, they went out there in a very unenviable situation to go on last on a Ring of Honor show, a WrestleMania weekend, very, very difficult position to be in, and he stepped up, and that was part of bringing a tear to my eye, is to know the magic that can happen sometimes. Yeah,
you were saying that, basically, all anybody really needs is a chance, because nobody really knows who's going to become a star and who wouldn't become a star, so...
Right, yeah, so you need an opportunity, that's all you do. And I think that arguably that's one of the errors with some of the companies that are around now, is that they're not given that chance. You're not. In my mind, and maybe this is wrong. If I was running a wrestling company, I'd say to the guys, go out there. Here's a microphone. Do your promo. go out there and have a match, and if you get over, then great, we'll push you. If you don't, then we won't, and that's it. And it's up to these guys, and but to be given your lines and be told, you can't do this, and you can't do that, and you can't do that, and then you don't get over, and you're blamed, well, you're not getting over. Well, it wasn't your job, you know what I mean? You can't, you can't put Brad Pitt in a movie that as the shits and blame his acting on it not selling if it's not a good movie.
Every wrestler, just like an actor, needs a story. As an actor's just an actor. It's the story that makes it a movie, not just the actor. And just like in wrestling, it's the storylines that make it, or it's the wrestlers that make it. But
all we are is athletic actors at the end of the day, And
true, yeah.
I think if we realised that and we understood what connected in the past, and that's what they say. If you don't learn from history, you're forced to repeat it. And I don't know if we've really truly learned the lessons from the wrestling boom at the end of the last century or not.
Yeah, what many people may or may not know about you is that you're actually very good at card magic. Is this something you adapted from an early age, or something you picked up to keep you occupied while on the road?
Yeah, no, I picked it up later. It wasn't really until about probably 5-6 years ago, and I was going out to Japan, and a lot of times the sponsors there would take you out to eat, and obviously I don't speak a lot of Japanese, and we'd be there for an hour, 2 hours at a time, and I felt kind of not disrespectful, but I wanted to, try and entertain them in the same way that they entertained us. And so I pretty much, started learning some sleight of hand and some card tricks and stuff like that, and it became a real, a really enjoyable hobby at this point. Whether I'll continue to do it, anymore, I'm not sure. But it's just fun for me, and hang out around shows and do tricks for the boys and stuff like that, and it's just fun.
Yeah, earlier this year you noted via Kickstarter that you were launching the Last McGuinness documentary, but required funding of $32,000 to go through with that project. With 7 days left to donate, you have thus far raised over $41,000 from just more than 850 backers. Has this surprised you, and who and what inspired you to go through with releasing this project?
Very, very surprised when I originally thought about the project, and I was sort of talking to a couple of people and mentioning $32,000. They were like, "It's a lot of money," but I said, I can't do it for any less. That's the absolute basic. Like, by the time I paid fees, taxes, music rights, actually made the documentary and put it out there and supported myself, $32,000 arguably isn't even really enough, but it was just, in my mind, that was a fair figure to do it. And so people were saying, it's a lot of money, maybe you should, ask for 20 or something. And then, 3 days I got $32,000, and it was absolutely blown away by the support, and just speaks volumes about professional wrestling fans, professional wrestling fans, not sports entertainment fans, people that understand the road that so many of us have travelled on, because I think we all start where they are. We all start in the crowd. And for some of us, it's fine to just carry on watching the shows, and without the guys that do that, then there wouldn't be an independent professional wrestling business, and for others of us, we actually take the steps to try and pursue those specific dreams, So it is wonderful to be part of that sort of, that sort of thing, so to speak. And then, there's what is it, like 7 days left now. And we're still trying to get money, because the more money I get, the better I can make the finished product. As I said, $32,000 is the real basics, but to get better music, to get more people involved, to get out to film festivals, to try and make this into something big, to try and show what independent professional wrestling is, and not to say, oh, independent professional wrestling can stand up to WWE or stand up to TNA or whatever it is. Not that at all. It's to show that, what we do is an art form, and that it's difficult, and that, it should be able to stand up outside movies and outside theater as well. So that's what, I think everybody wants to see.
Right. You mentioned that we're all fans. Speaking of fans, actually, going back to those magic tricks for a second, our lead reporter said you had actually done card magic for him at a tour in Cork, Ireland with American Wrestling Rampage.
Yeah, we were there, and for the life of me, I can't remember why. I think it was something with the ring not showing up yet. That was it. The ring probably didn't show up on time. And so, and again, forgive me if it's not the right person, but I believe it was Raven told the promoter, Nigel does great card tricks. So all of a sudden, there we are in front of the crowd who sat there waiting to see wrestling, and he said, well, You can't see any wrestling yet because the ring isn't here, but Nigel McGuinness does magic tricks like will blow you away. And I mean, I do hand-to-hand, like, you know, sort of close-up hand magic. I don't do performance on a stage. So when you've got like 300 people who stood in front of you, you can't just take one person to a side. So it was kind of a little awkward at first, but you know, it came off fine. And I think the few people who did see the card tricks kind of entertained.
Yeah, I don't mean to bounce around here, but going back to to your documentary, were there any problems with certain talent appearing in the project, and have any companies tried to prevent you from having said talent appear on the release?
No, that's fine. It's all been, you know, fine. Everybody, you know, has signed a release to say that I can use whatever footage I've got, which is very, you know, useful and helpful. Yeah, there's no issues whatsoever. I just talked to Ring of Honor. They let me use some footage that I had for the trailer, and I'm hoping to have some to use for the actual documentary as well. And then I will try to, you know, as the project goes along, decide where I need to get it from.
Yeah, Nigel, before we wrap this up, I'd like, if you don't mind, I'd like to do some a quick word association. You game for it?
Oh, I hate these bloody things. It puts you on the spot, and then no matter what you say, you either sound like an idiot or you know what I mean. Like how can one word describe someone? You know what I mean? So you say your word, say your person, or whatever you want, and I'll just rabbit on for a little bit and try and, you know, give a fair sort of opinion of them.
Okay, I have one I'm going to add to this after a comment you made earlier, but I'll get to him last. Bryan Danielson. Yeah, well, he's certainly a legend in his own time, in my mind. You know, he should be, and he is really the poster boy for what I set out to do, you know, to prove that if you've got a dream and you never give up, that you can achieve it. I mean, he was arguably less suited to be a professional wrestler than I was, you know, shorter than me and didn't have a particularly, you know, strong athletic background, nor did I. But, you know, in an age where professional wrestlers are looked at as certainly need to look like a bodybuilder, when we started out, I mean, he's gone so far above and beyond, you know, just being a credit and someone that I think I'll always look up to and helped me out a great deal in my own career. CM Punk.
Same thing. You can say the same thing with Punk. You know, they're very different people. If you ever meet them and get nice to talk to them and hang out, and they're very different in their viewpoints on the world and themselves and their place within professional wrestling. But they're both as inspiring, and they're both as guys that I looked at in my career and said, you know, like, these are guys that I want to try and emulate, try and follow. You know.
Kerry Silkin.
Well, without Kerry Silkin, there wouldn't be a Ring of Honor, without a doubt, and arguably without Kerry Silkin, without Ring of Honor, then I wouldn't have a career, you know. I never would have got to the stage that I did. He's a guy that's been a wrestling fan for the longest time, and because of that, because he loves wrestling, but more so he loves, you know, Ring of Honor, you know, he stuck by Ring of Honor for the longest time when a lot of people arguably would have just stepped away and let it die.
Gabe Sapolsky.
Again, you know, you bring up people and all the same sort of thing. Gabe, there were so many times when I was the champion, you know, I mean, within a month after I won the belt, I tore my bicep. And I'm sure there were tons of people in the company that wanted to say, you know what, he's injury prone, we got to get the belt off him, all sort of stuff. But Gabe stood by me, and not just then, so many times. And I think Gabe's genius, wisdom, whatever you want to call it, is that he knew the difference between, you know, going out there and telling guys exactly what they had to do and saying nothing. And that's, in my mind, that's the great book, is knowing when you need to give someone something. For example, when I was in New York and the night after I wrestled Aries, and I was pretty much knocked out on my feet. And he had the wherewithal to say, you know what, you're not going to wrestle tonight. I've got a promo for you to go out there, and it worked perfectly. But at other times when, you know, I didn't need that, he said, go out there and just do it yourself. And, you know, I'll always be tremendously indebted to, to Gabe for everything that he's given my career.
I got only a couple more left. Austin Aries.
Austin Aries, in my mind, one of the most underrated guys in the business today. You know, he's so talented, and he's one of these guys that can, you know, just get over anybody that he's in the ring with. You know what I mean? So it's just remarkable, and a great friend as well, and a very valued confidant, and it's given me a lot of great advice.
Ring of Honor.
Well, Ring of Honor has always been a promotion that's very close to my heart. Without it, you know, then I never would have had the career that I had. Gave me the opportunity to wrestle all over the world. Gave me the opportunity to make some money in the business and pursue my childhood dream. So I'll always be happy for that, and I hope that it continues to be a strong company and still give guys a chance to develop their skills, because as we're seeing now in the industry, you're seeing Dragon, you're seeing Punk, and you look into development, you look into the future of this sport, and you're seeing a lot more guys that came through Ring of Honor, hopefully will be, you know, industry changes.
We didn't really talk about your time in TNA, but Dixie Carter.
Dixie's a wonderful woman, you know. Without her, I never would have had a job in TNA in the first place. And when, you know, certain elements in the company probably, you know, didn't see me in such a light, I wouldn't have kept my job there without Dixie Carter. You know, she's an honest-to-goodness person who always, you know, tried to look out the best for me in some very trying times. And I'll always be grateful for the opportunity she gave me.
Now, here's the one I mentioned before we started this. Vince McMahon.
Well, you know, I can't say anything about Vince McMahon that hasn't been said 100 times before. You know, I met the guy one time in my life. He's obviously changed the wrestling business forever. Almost unarguably the greatest wrestling promoter of all time. And without what he did with WrestleMania and everything else, I don't think I would be a professional wrestler today. And arguably, I don't think anybody who's a professional wrestler today would be him. You know, he's got his idea of what professional wrestling is, which, you know, isn't necessarily exactly my idea of what professional wrestling is. But, you know, I mean, if you're going to back one guy, you've got to back Vince McMahon, because that's where he's got the job done.
Yeah. One last one, and Nigel McGuinness.
Oh, he's a bit of a wanker at the best of times. That's about it. Okay, fellas.
I was just going to wrap this up. Is there anything you wish to plug, anywhere fans can check you online, such as your website, Twitter, or Facebook?
Yeah, the website is nigelwrestling.com. Go to kickstarter.com, type Nigel into the search engine, and you'll find the Kickstarter project I'm working on. You'll get a sense of the documentary I'm working on as well. And like I said, there's about 7 days left to continue to pledge support. So if you can, great. If you can't, just tell people about it and get the word out there, because, you know, I'm hoping this will be something we can all be proud of.
All right, Nigel. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you've had a busy weekend, so I really appreciate you taking the time out to come on the show.
No worries. You got it. Thanks very much, guys. I hope you enjoy WrestleMania tonight.
Thank you, Nigel. Have a good one.
All right, cheers. Bye.